Hello everyone, welcome to day 2 Python learning for automation session. In this session, I'll be explaining about the Python variables and data types. So in the previous session, I explained about the Python configuration in your system, and also we discussed about the basic programming instructions to execute the Python. Like we discussed about the Python statement, wherein whenever I wanted to write any kind of a, if I wanted to print any values in the console, we can just use the print keyword followed by the statements that I wanted to add it in the console, right? So let us get started about the variables and data types. So variables are used to store data in Python. So whenever I wanted to store certain values, like example, I can say username, password. So at that time, we can use the variables. So in Python, the variables are dynamic typing. So what is meant by dynamic typings here? Whenever I'll be declaring any variable, I don't need to declare the data type of that particular variable. Like example, in Java, if I take, so if I wanted to represent the int value, so I'll be defining the data type int. So I is the variable name, and I'll be assigning the value to this particular I as 10. So here 10 is the value. So this is also called as the literal value, so which I'll be assigning to this I. So I is the variable. When I say int, it is a data type, right? So in Java, when I has to define any variable, I have to declare the data type of that particular variable. In the same way, if I wanted to declare the string, so I have to declare that string s is equal to a name of the particular user as such. So, but in the Python, we no need to declare data types. Simply, I can go ahead and I can create a variable and I can assign the value to that particular variable. Okay, so we'll see different data types which are present in the Python. These are some of the common data types I had listed in Python. So first is the int type. So whenever I wanted to store the whole number, so at that time, like example 10 minus 5 10, so at that time I can try to use the data type as int. Float value, so if I wanted to store the decimal numbers, so like 10.5, any floating numbers, if I wanted to store it, so I can use the float. So for string, so if I wanted to print a text or the string, if I wanted to store text or the string like hello, so any statement, so at that time I can try to use the string data type. Bool is a data type which can store the boolean value. So when I say boolean value, it will be stored either the true or the false values. Then list, so when I say list, it's an ordered collection of multiple elements which I wanted to store. So I'll be, when I wanted to represent the list, we'll be using it in the square brackets. And when I say this is a ordered collection, so whatever the index will not be changed, means whatever the way I'm representing it, in the same way the particular values will be printable in the console when I'll be executing it. So when I say tuple, so this is also an ordered collection, means the order of insertion of the values into the tuple will not be changed. But what is the difference between the list and tuple is, so if I created a list of values, at that time it is changeable, means I can modify that list, I can add a new value, okay, and I can remove it. But when I say or the tuple, I'm not able to add a new value into it, it is immutable, I can say. And we have a set. So in a set, unordered unique values, like here when I will be creating a set, it will be stored where the index, based on the indexing. So here the value I am adding into the list set, in the same way it will be not preserved, okay, during the execution time. And dictionary, so when I wanted to represent the values in the key value pair, so at that time we'll be using this dictionary. And complex numbers, like example, when I'll be this will be specifically used when we wanted to represent the values such as scientific calculations if we are doing, okay, AIML, if I'm in the AIML mathematics if I wanted to use, or physics equations if I wanted to represent. So at that time we'll be using one real number, one imaginary number. So at that time we'll be using the complex numbers. And none type, so when I wanted to, if I wanted to represent any empty value, so at that time we can go with the none type. Then bytes, so if I wanted to represent the binary data and if I wanted to store that particular data, I can create a byte data types. Then range, like sequence of numbers. Let's assume I wanted to print the values from 0 to 5, so at that time I can just use the sequence of numbers as range as 5. So this will try to print the values from 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And so when I will be representing the range as 5, it will print till the 4, means as it is going to start the counting of the values from 0. So 0 to 4 it will be 5, and it will be printing till the fourth number. Then we have a frozen set. So frozen set is similar to set only, but what is the difference is it is unchangeable set. When I say set, it can be changed, but when I say frozen set, it is unchangeable set. And we'll be representing the frozen set along with the frozen set function call within the parenthesis. Okay, so let us try to create the examples, means we'll try to convert these data types in the program, how exactly we can write it in the Python coding. So let us start with that. Okay, so I'll just try to create a new program here. So to create a new file, just click on this Python practice folder and create a new file. So I'm going to create a new file as variable, and so I'll just make it simple. So variable demo.py. Okay, so first we discussed about the integer type. So whenever I am writing any kind of a statement uh, to represent the values, so I can just try to have it in the form of comments. So integer, so here I wanted to represent the integer values, so I can just go ahead and represent it as an int. So int is a 10. So here my int value which I am representing means it is a variable, and I'm going to assign 10 value into this particular integer. So once I add a 10 value into this integer, I wanted to print the value. So when I wanted to print, so I just wanted to print it as an integer. So what is the integer value? And here I wanted to print my int, means 10 value. So 10 value is stored in the my int. I can go ahead and I can print it. So how you will get to know what this data type is, right? See, we can understand this is an integer type, but here we have not explicitly defined this is an int type. So to whenever we are declaring any, whenever we are declaring, if we are using any variables, to check what is the data type of that particular variables, we can use a type keyword. Okay, so let me try to print the type of that particular integer value that we define. So I can say type of my int variable. So here I can try to go with a type of my int. So close this brace. Okay, so this is going to print the integer. When I call my int, it will print the integer value. So here I should get the outcome as so 10, like basically it should come as integer followed by 10, and here I should be getting the outcome as type of my int. So this is the integer type. Okay, so this is how we can try to check what is the type of the variable that I am going to have it. Then we'll see about the float. In float, let me just have it as a my float, and here I'm going to represent the value of the pi 3.14. And if I wanted to print this value, so I just have to use the float value as my float. I can call this particular variable that I had created. Now, I wanted to print the type of this variable that I had created. So I can just go here and say type of my float. Okay. So then what is the type? I have to use the type keyword followed by my float. So with this, it will be printing the float value over here, and here we can get the type of the float as the float type. Okay, now we'll see how exactly we can go with the string. So here let me just go with the string. So I'm just declaring as I'll try to define the name of a particular user. Okay, let's consider we are going to represent the name of a person. Okay, so I'm just going to represent the name of a person as John. So here in a string, so I just wanted to print a string value. So here rather than string, I'll say hello. I just wanted to hello followed by the name. Okay, so here I can use hello name. So this is going to give me the outcome as hello John, and I wanted to print the value of type of whatever the name variable that I'm using. What is the type here? So here we'll be getting a type as string. Okay, so now we'll try to check for the boolean. See, when I wanted to represent the boolean values, we have to use this boolean type. Like example, I wanted to represent certain values. Like example, someone is asking me, are you working, like that? I wanted to say I'm working or not. If I'm working, I should say yes, or I should say no. Okay, so for that I can just create a boolean value as is working. So here I'm working, so for that I just wanted to update the statement as true. So now I just wanted to print the outcome. So when if someone is asking, so are you working, so what exactly it is going to represent, it will say, so it's going to represent, I'll just give a space here. So I should represent with a boolean value that is working. So when I say is working, it is going to give me the outcome as true. Then print statement. So I'll be having type of is working. So what is the type of is working? It's a boolean type. So I can just use type followed by the variable that I had created. So with this I can get the type. This will be decided based on the value that we had been assigned. It's not because of the variable name that we are setting. So the value that I'm going to assign it. So if I'm assigning it as a true, it is going to return the outcome as the true, or I mean boolean. If in the same variable, if I'm having a value as 10, it will be returning as an int type. So before I'll continue, so let us try to execute and check how the outcome we are getting. So let me just, before I'll execute, I have to save, control S, then go to the terminal. So how to run this program? So we have to use the Python followed by the file name, Python variables demo.py. So now we can see, first we got the integer value as 10, and this is an int type, float, this is string, and this is boolean. Okay, so as I told, just I'll just change here the outcome as is working into 10. Okay, we'll see how the outcome is going to change. I saved that program and I'm going to execute the same again. Here if you can see, it's representing as int. Here is working is as adding a value as 10. Okay, so based on the value that we are going to assign to the particular variable, I'll be getting the value, means I'll be getting here the type, which data type I'm using in that particular, means which value that I'm assigning, based on that I'll be getting the data type. Okay, so hope it is clear till now. Okay, let us get started with the list. So list I'll be using, like example, I just wanted to use multiple uh, I wanted to store the multiple elements. Like let's take an example. I just wanted to store skill sets that a person is going to hold. So here, when in the list, we can store either any type of a data type. It might be integer, it might be string, like that. We can use a different data set also. Okay, let me create a skills as the variable. In these skills variables, I wanted to store the different elements. Like I just wanted to store what are the skills a person is going to hold. Okay, I just wanted to say Python, and so AWS and Java, then SQL. Okay, so here to print this list, either we can use the for loop or we can directly use the print statement also. So I just go here and I'm going to print the skills as, I'll give a space, and then I'm going to call this skills list. Okay, then so to know the type of this particular skills, data type of the skills, I can use a type keyword. So I can just go here, print type of skills. So I can say here type of skills. Okay, so now here it's going to print the outcome as all the skills that a person is going to hold. So I'll just try to define the tuple next. So tuple, as I already told, so this is we can try to change the values in the skills. We can try to modify the list of elements which are present, but in the tuple we are not able to do that. And what is another difference between the list and tuple is in the skills. So we'll be using the square brackets, but when I use a tuple, we have to declare this with the parenthesis. Okay, so let me just try to store the different colors which are present. Okay, I'll just take certain image. I wanted to store different colors which are present in that particular image. See, when I say skills, it will be keep changing. Like example, tomorrow you just wanted, you just come up with a new skill, so you can try, we can try to add a new skill, so skill sets into this particular list. When I say you have to list the colors in that particular image, so it will be static, right? Means you can at a time you can try to get all the colors and you can store it in the tuple. So you can remember in that way. So I can just go with the colors here. As I told, I just, if I'm representing the tuple, I just wanted to represent in the parenthesis. So just store it as red and green, and then the yellow, and I have a blue. Okay, so these are some of the colors that I had represented. Now, so I just wanted to print the same as colors. So just give one space and followed by print this. So if I wanted to understand what is the type of, if I wanted to print what is the type of this colors, okay, data type, I can call here type of colors. So here I can do type of colors. Okay, so with this we'll just try to see by executing this program. I'm just going to terminal and I'm just going to click on page up arrow, so which can give me the it can execute my program. So here you can see I had got all the skills and also the colors, and here you can see this type is list and this type is tuple. Okay, now so we'll just see about the dictionary. So when I wanted to represent a key value pairs, so at that time I'll be using the dictionary. So let's assume I just wanted to represent the employee ID and employee name and employee role values I wanted to represent, and each value should have assigned with the expect, means whatever the real ID, name, and their designation of the employees. Okay, so let me create a dictionary, so which is going to have the, let us see, to store the employee information. Here for the employee information to store, I'm going to create a variable called employee. So in this employee dictionary, I just wanted to store the ID of the employee. So ID of the employee is 1, and so I just wanted to store the name of the employee. So as part of the name of the employee, so I just go ahead and I can store it as a John. And I'm going to store the role of that particular employee. So as a role, I can store it as the Python developer. Okay, so this is a dictionary that I had created. Now I wanted to print this value. So at that time, I can just call the variable. So I can just go here and I can call this variable that I had created. That is employee variable that I had created. And yeah, so here I can call this variable. Okay, now I wanted to print the type, so I can use type of employee. So when you print the type of employee, so it can give me this particular type is dictionary. So I can use type of employee. Okay, so with this we can get the dictionary values. Let us execute the same. So here we can see we'll be getting the employee details. We are printing as ID 1, name John, and role is Python developer, and it is of the type dictionary. Okay, so now let us move towards the complex numbers. As I already told, complex numbers we'll be using when we wanted to have one real number and another one is the imaginary number. So if I wanted to represent the complex numbers, here I just go here example, I'll go to the complex number, I'll print, okay, 2 plus 3, and 3 is the imaginary number. Because of that, I'll be adding j for the same. So if I wanted to print this complex number, I can just say here uh, complex number space. So here I can use the complex number variable. And if I wanted to print this type of a complex number, so I can just go with type of complex number followed by type of complex number. Okay, now we'll see by printing it how exactly we'll be getting the outcome. So after each time when you wanted to execute, you have to save the program in the editor. So here you can see it's printing 2 plus 3 of j, and it is saying this data type is complex data type, right? So now we'll see how exactly we can use the none type. So none type we'll be using when we wanted to represent the empty values. Okay, so at that time we'll be using this none type. So here I just wanted to represent a certain data which is a empty one. Like I can declare this data as none, means this is an empty value. Okay, now I can print this data. When I print this data, so this is going to store the none as a dot, none as a, means it is going to, it is not going to store any value, it's going to have the empty value. And if I wanted to print this none data type, I can use the type of data. We'll just see the outcome how it going to come. See here, if you can see here, data type is none, means it is going to hold the empty value, it's not going to hold any values, and this type is none type. Okay, now let us move towards the range. Okay, this is very important when we wanted to use it, when we wanted to print the range of values. At the time it's going to very useful. So let's assume I just wanted to print the values, so from the range, like I just wanted to print the values from 0 to 10, right? So at that time, if I wanted to print the 0 to 10, so rather than we use for loop or if conditions, means while loop, means looping statement, we can try to use this range variable. So how to define it? I can just say here I just wanted to print the number range from 0 to 10. So I can use here number as the variable. In this I can declare the range as 10. See, here a small difference we should be knowing. I'll just say range is equal to what is the range we are representing is 10 number, and I wanted to print the type of this particular number. What is this number type is it? Okay, so let me save and execute it. Here if you can see, I'm getting the range as 0 to 10. Okay, so here I wanted to print these range values not from the 10. I mean, it's completely, it is going to print from 0 to 10. Okay, let me see how exactly. See, this is the value we defined, it is showing. Okay, if it is going to print this range, if we wanted to print this values, so we have to print in such a way that I can use this for loop basically. So for, I can just define the num in number. So I'll explain you this for loop in the coming sessions. So at that time, I'm using this for loop to represent what is the range of values that this particular range is printing. Okay, now let me try to execute the same program. See here, if you can see, the values are printing from 0 to 9. So here I wanted to print 0 to 10. So at that time I have to increase the value from 10 to 11. Now this range of values will contain from 0 to 10, and this type is range. Here we are using the for loop. As part of the for loop, what I am trying to do is we are iterating the numbers to print one after another. For that, whatever the values that range 0 to 11 it is there, each time when the for loops executes, I'll be assigning the number into this num, and that will be iterating and printing the value one after the another in that way. So it's going to print the range from 0 to 10. Okay, so now let's move towards the byte. So bytes, so whenever I wanted to represent the byte value, so at the time I'll be using it. So let's try to create a variable. So byte data. So here I just wanted to, whenever I'll be declaring this value, I should use b followed by whatever the value that I wanted to represent it. Okay, now if I wanted to print this data, I can go ahead and print this byte type, and I can print the type of a data. So what is that type? So how it is going to print in the console, we'll just try to execute it. Now we got the so it is printing the data type as byte, and it's going to have the data types also bytes it is representing. Then we'll see the frozen set. So frozen set, as I already told, it is similar to set only, means the values which we are inserting in the same way it's not going to print, but it is immutable. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and we'll just check frozen. If I wanted to represent this frozen set, I'm just going to take the example as frozen data. So for this, if I wanted to represent this, create a frozen set, I have to use the frozen, means I have to do the function call by using the frozen set followed by the values that I wanted to assign. I have to add it. So here let me add the values as 10, 20, 30 and 40. Okay, so I'll be saving this. Now if I wanted to print this value, so I can just go ahead and print frozen set followed by the frozen set variable. And I wanted to understand the data type also, I can use type of frozen data. So here I just wanted to call the data type of frozen data. Okay, so let me save it and try to run this. So you can see this frozen set values as not reserved in the order I am writing. So here I have added a values like 10, 20, 30 and 40. So here it is printing 40, 10, 20 and 30, means whatever the order that we are right, means whatever the order that we are writing are passing during the when we are writing the program. So same thing will not be reserved in the backend. It will be stored based on the specific indexing. So whatever the way it has stored in the whatever the way it is stored, so in this based on the indexing, so in the console we will be getting that way the values will be printed. Okay, yeah. So these are some of the very important. So let us revise the concepts that we had learned from this session quickly. So we talked about the Python variables and data types and how to create a different variables and printing the values of the variables that we are using, and also how to call the type function and how exactly we can use it with all the data types. And also we discussed about the dictionary and list, how to print that values from the list and dictionary, and also the range, how to get the range values via the looping statement for loop we discussed. Okay, so on the same concepts which we discussed, I had given a three exercises. You can take a chance to work on these three exercises after this session, so wherein you will get some more hands on by doing this exercise. So I'll stop it here. Thank you everyone.